Welcome back to our final night of reflection on faith and the coronavirus pandemic. I hope you're finding it to be helpful, maybe even getting you to think about some other things. They always tell us that sometimes when we go on retreat, it's not necessarily the things that come into our mind when the retreat director is speaking or when I'm having a meeting with the retreat director, but what goes on between the meetings. Things that just come up in your mind or that occur to you or that you get into conversations about. So hold on to all that. Tonight, to wrap it up, as I say, there were, I believe, as much disruption and upheaval as this pandemic has brought into our lives. It has also brought in opportunities. And last night we looked at what are some opportunities to grow in faith, to change the way that I pray, to do different things that help me to stay alert to God's presence and God's faithful love. Tonight I'd like to suggest that we also look for that there are opportunities that a situation like this brings up, opportunities to love that's being offered to us by this pandemic experience. Now, let me clarify one thing. These opportunities, as good as they aren't the reason why there's a pandemic. And people say, okay, maybe God is allowing the pandemic so that we'll grow up and be more mature in our faith or become more loving people. No. But this is an effect of the pandemic. It's not a reason for it. It's an effect of it. Something that happens as a result of it. And you may be discovering, I hope you are anyway, some of these things in your own life. Now, what's an opportunity for love that might be offered? Who knows? It could be a lot of different things. Maybe you're more aware of other people. You know, on the news when they have that last little story where they talk about, a nurse that really did some extraordinary work helping people with the COVID-19 virus, etc. It made me more aware of that and all the nurses and doctors and medical personnel that are around working so hard these days. Maybe it helped me to be more compassionate, understanding I don't have the coronavirus, other than having my, not being able to work from my office or go to school or whatever. It hasn't really affected me all that much, and I have a lot of good time with my family. But it's made me more compassionate toward those who are being affected by it. I'm drawn by that. I want to do something about that. Maybe I start to do some intentional service for the poor. We noticed that there were more people making sandwiches in the last month for the people of St. Vincent de Paul Mission. Or maybe intentional service for the poor or the suffering and the marginalized. Or maybe I'm just much more grateful for all those wonderful people who work in hospitals and convalescent homes and our first responders and all of these kinds of folks. Maybe I find myself just more grateful for how those folks are sacrificing so much. I know I've been so moved by some of the testimony that some nurses give about how hard they're working in the ERs of these hospitals and convalescent homes and how difficult that is. But they're doing it for the rest of us, huh? And that brings us to this wonderful principle that you hear me often speak about because it's such an important part of our Catholic social teaching, and that is the common good. The good not just of my own deal, but the common good. Once again, that old bumper sticker that says, it's not about you. No, it isn't. It's a much bigger world than just about me. Remember the great story in Luke's gospel that Jesus told. And the setup for the story is a real important part of it, where a lawyer, somebody who studied the law of Moses, comes up to Jesus and says, what must I do to gain eternal life? I want to keep all the laws of Moses. I know them inside and out. What's the thing I need to do that? And Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And the lawyer asks, I suppose, a question that sounds like a lawyer. He wants specifics. He says, and who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? Now, some more suspicious people who read the scriptures look at that text and they say what he really wanted to know is who he didn't have to help. But be that as it may, we don't know that either. But he asked the question, who is my neighbor? And Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan, where the neighbor tends to be the Samaritan, the one least expected to be. They thought the priest and the Levite were going to be the neighbor. No, it was the Samaritan. And of course, we know the Jews and the Samaritans were like oil and water at the time. So that really surprised all of them, that he was the one that came out as the one who was the neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers. Our belief about the common good and tending to our neighbor is based upon our belief that we're all connected. We are all children of one God. We are all equal in God's sight. And once you start to look at life like that, that makes life look differently. Hopefully, these days of isolation and enclosure, being cut off from all sorts of other people who we value as a part of our lives, can sharpen our awareness of exactly how relational or communal we are as human beings. Human beings are communal people. We need other people. How interdependent we are, our lives upon the others. Just think of all the people that you're depending on for whatever's going on now during this pandemic. You know, for the food that you have, for the public safety, for the medical needs you might have, all the different people that we need. And people come together because we are all God's children. We value the common good. Our happiness depends largely on living in communion with one another, especially those with whom our lives are most naturally and closely intertwined. We know that if we live in good relationship with other people, whether it's in a family, in a neighborhood, at a workplace, in a school, whatever it is, when we live in communion, we are much happier. And we know a lot of the polarized and partisan attitudes that seem to prevail in our country so much, although that are interesting in getting a good run for their money in this pandemic time, as people realize that we're all in this together and we need each other. But that can get us discouraged when people are so adversarial. Why? It goes against something deep in us. We will be happiest when we live in peace and mutual respect one with another. This leads us to understand really what the common good is. The common good takes precedence over the good of the individual. I may want something in this way, but if that disrupts the common good, the betterment of other people, I can, drive down Route 84 at 100 miles an hour, and I may be the best driver in the world, I'm never going to drive up the road, but I'm endangering other people. The common good always takes precedence over the individuals. It's coming up a lot these days as now people are talking about when are we going to reopen our country? When are we going to be able to go out and mingle with people and go to school and go to work and go to movies and soccer games and the like? A lot of the restrictions that we're experiencing, and people are saying, when's this going to change? When are we going to be able to go back to what we really value and what we miss a lot? And the thing keeps coming back. We have to be alert to the public safety, to making sure that this virus is not going to turn around and flare up again. So we need to wait for that to happen. I think it's a classical example of the challenge of the common good to us. So what's one opportunity to love, or to love more faithfully that you've taken in these recent days? What's one thing where you said, okay, I'm going to put my own needs aside and do this to benefit somebody else? And once again, we probably won't type these out because these are kind of personal, but be purposeful about holding something specifically in your heart right now. And so a lot of things have gone on. I mean, the stories on the news where they do really highlight different things that people have done, just the things that we've seen here around our parish, like I said before, with more people making sandwiches and people calling up our parishioners and checking in on them, or people buying groceries and shopping for some people who can't get out or are concerned about getting out. People are really using the more free time they have to be helpful to somebody else. Opportunities for love that come not as a reason for this coronavirus experience, but as an effect of it. Our Catholic faith helps us to look at an experience like this and say, you can sit home and feel lousy because you can't go out and do the things you want to do, or you can do something that would be beneficial to somebody else. The message of Jesus that we celebrate in a very particular way in the celebration of Easter, that Jesus proved to be true, is a message that you've heard me say over and over again, because I love the way this old theology or seminary professor used to put it. He said Jesus promised those who follow him two things. Your life's going to have meaning, and you're going to live forever. If you get a better offer, take it. And there it is. What gives meaning to our life? Control, power, possessions. Is that what gives meaning to our life? We find out over and over again not. It's in caring for other people. It's in being a person of integrity and honesty and goodness and compassion. That's what gives meaning to our life. And this coronavirus pandemic, I believe, offers us special opportunities to do that, especially with the sense that we're all in this together. And the great promise of Jesus that he showed to be true in his resurrection that we just celebrated a couple of weeks ago at Easter is that we'll rise up and live forever because of that. I appreciate you having taken the time to be here this week or to watch each night this week, this little reflection. I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's helped you to be reflective, to reflect upon what your experience is of this very unique time of our lives and history of our country and of our world. I hope you're finding that your faith in Jesus, your faith as a Catholic, is helping you to really appreciate the richness of this time and recognize God's faithful love at work. We're going to conclude with just a little poem that I came across. Someone sent me recently that I found to be powerful. It's Irish, and I suppose I have a little vested interest in that. But it's an Irish poem about this experience. Let's allow a little reflective time on this poem to be the way that we conclude our time together this week. Thanks so much for being a part of this, and may God bless all of us in these very challenging, unique times that we're living. God bless you.
She sleeps. Our world, she slumbers. Beneath the moon, the stars, the midnight sky. She sleeps, perchance to dream. To her, Mr. Sandman goes. To us, he brings dreams. Fever dreams. In dreams, we remember what was. We think about what is. We imagine what might be, what can be, what will be. In dreams, we see those we love, those we have loved, those we will love. Do you think when this will all end, will we love more? Because when this will all end, we'll see things we could not imagine. We'll see heroes, jaded and bloody and exhausted and sick and tired and glittering and loved. We'll see entire nations come together to honour the bravery of those who showed up day after day, night after night to serve them. We'll see a world coming out of hibernation, from behind screens, a world that will stop staring and start again on a life less ordinary. When this will all end, we'll see waterfalls, beaches, crocodiles, speeches. We'll see birds flying high, sun in the sky, and hey Nina, we'll know how you feel with the new dawn, new day, new life. And damn, it'll feel good. And when this will all end, our hearts will have broken with millions of tiny shattered tears. But hearts are strong and they'll mend. And as they do, they'll soldier and grow and flourish and sow and flow with our souls together. And these souls will too be stronger because of this. And when this will all end, we will be reunited. So now, just for a minute, let's imagine it. The moment you'll hear that voice again. See that face again. Feel that embrace again. And we will embrace the old, the young, the family, the friends, the friendly rivals, the rival rivals, those you wouldn't have thought twice about touching before, and we will cry. Oh, we will cry. Fat, hot, wet tears will roll down our faces as we hold each other tight and for far too long, because when this will all end, it won't feel right to ever let go again. And when this will all end, you'll ask me to dance, and I will say, yeah, let's dance. For the dawn of a new world, for those we love, for those we've lost, for another chance. And you'll put on your red shoes and dance my blues away. And as we sway, you'll look in my eyes at my soul reviving, burning, arising. And those fat, hot, wet tears will fall, and we will never, ever forget it. And we will never, ever let go again. And this will all end.